Hey, Wide Awake family. If you see this, it's your sign to smash that like button. Yes, you listening right now. That way YouTube shows you more amazing stories like this one. We love you all. Now enjoy the stories.
I knew something was wrong the first morning I woke up hungry, even though I knew I bought food the night before. Not the normal kind of hungry either, like the kind where your stomach feels hollow and you start replaying your grocery trip in your head to make sure you are not losing it. I stood in my kitchen in socks, staring at the counter where a loaf of bread should have been. I remembered putting it there. I remembered ripping the receipt and tossing it. But the bread was gone. Not crumbs, not the bag, just gone. I blamed myself and moved on because that is what you do when you're trying to prove to yourself you are fine after a breakup. I broke up with her months ago. It was messy but not dramatic. No screaming, no crying fits, just that heavy, tired feeling where both people know it is over but do not want to say it. She packed a bag, said she would come back for the rest later, and then never did, or at least that is what I thought. I changed the locks a week after. I cleaned everything. I tried to reset my live. I told myself the weird tension in the apartment was just leftover emotion. Then food kept going missing. Not everything, just small stuff. A yogurt here. A pack of noodles there. Once it was half a leftover slice I read was there because I remember thinking I would eat it later. I started marking stuff in my head like some kind of scoreboard. When I noticed my cereal box was lighter than it should be, I laughed it off and said stress makes you forget things. I was still trying to act normal. A few nights later, I came home late from work and noticed my front door was unlocked. I froze for a second, keys still in my hand. I am careful about that stuff. I always lock it. I checked the lock, turned it, and it worked fine. I walked through the apartment slowly, checking corners like I was in some low-budget horror movie, but nothing was off. Windows closed. Lights the same. I blamed muscle memory and told myself I probably unlocked it without thinking. I did not call anyone. I did not make a big deal. I wanted peace more than answers. After that, it started happening more. The bathroom door would be open when I knew I closed it. A hallway closet would be cracked just enough to notice. Once I woke up to the sound of my fridge humming louder than usual and realized the door was not fully shut. My heart raced, but I still found excuses. Old building. Bad hinges. Me being tired. The building is old enough that weird stuff feels normal if you let it. The breathing started on a Sunday night. I was half asleep, face turned into my pillow, when I noticed a sound that did not belong. Slow, steady, like someone was trying to breathe quietly but failing. I held my breath to make sure it was not me. The sound kept going. It was close, like right next to the bed, but also wrong, like it was coming from inside the walls. I rolled over fast, and the sound stopped. I lay there staring at the dark, heart pounding, telling myself it was pipes or air moving through the vents. I did not sleep much after that. The next morning, I found muddy footprints near the back door. Not full prints, just smears, like someone wet their shoes on the mat but forgot to clean after. I do not own shoes like that. I live on the third floor. The back door leads to a fire escape that no one ever uses. I stood there too long, staring at the floor, feeling that tight pressure in my chest that makes it hard to swallow. I cleaned it up and washed my hands longer than needed. I started locking my bedroom door at night. It made me feel stupid and safer at the same time. The breathing came back anyway. Some nights it was faint, some nights louder, like it was right above the ceiling. I started sleeping with my phone flashlight on the nightstand. Every creak made me sit up. I stopped inviting friends over because I did not want to explain why I kept checking doors. One night I noticed the vent in my room looked off. Not broken, just slightly tilted like someone had pushed it from the inside. I got a chair and stood on it, pressing the vent cover. It shifted easily. Behind it was darkness and dust and a narrow space that made my stomach drop. I did not know there was anything there. I thought vents just led to ducts. This felt different. This felt like a gap meant to be hidden. I spent the next hour going through old building plans online, anything I could find. I learned the place used to be split differently years ago. Smaller units, shared storage spaces between walls. Crawl spaces meant for wiring that people could fit into if they really wanted. I sat at my bed, staring at the vent, feeling stupid for not noticing sooner. I did not call the landlord. I wanted to see it for myself. The next night, I waited until it was quiet. I grabbed a flashlight and unscrewed the vent fully. Dust fell on my face. I coughed but kept going. The space behind was just tall enough to crouch in. Wood beams, insulation, old soda cans, and then something that did not belong. A blanket. Folded, but not neatly. My blanket. The one I thought I lost when she moved out. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped the flashlight. I crawled in further, heart hammering, trying not to think about how close this space was to where I slept. I found more stuff. Empty food wrappers. A phone charger. A shirt I recognized because I hated it on her. There were dents in the insulation like someone had been laying there for a long time. Breathing there, watching through tiny cracks in the wall. I backed out and bolted the vent back on like that would undo what I saw. I stood in the middle of my room, spinning, not sure what to do. I did not want to be there anymore. I grabbed my keys and left, driving around until the sun came up. I kept thinking about how long it had been going on. How many nights she was there while I slept. How many times I blamed myself instead of trusting what I felt. When I came back with a friend later that day, the crawlspace was empty. The blanket was gone. The wrappers gone. Like it was never real. But the smell was still there, stale and human. The landlord called it trespassing and said they would seal it. Police took notes and told me to stay somewhere else for a bit. I moved out a week later. I still think about the breathing sometimes, late at night when my room is quiet. I still check vents without thinking. She never contacted me again. She never had to. She already took what she wanted. The first weird thing was the envelope. It showed up mixed in with junk mail, bent and thin, like it had already been opened once and regretted. No return address. My name was spelled right in that familiar way she used to do, all lowercase, like it was casual even when it was serious. I almost tossed it, but something about it felt off, like ignoring it would make things worse. Inside was a wedding invitation. Not fancy. Printed at home. Beige paper. Time and place. No names except mine listed under guest. That alone should have stopped me, but I was bored and curious and still a little messed up from the breakup. I had not seen her in over a year. Not online, not in person, not even through mutuals. I read the invite 3 times thinking I missed something obvious. Groom name blank. Bride name blank. Just a location I recognized because it was a community hall near the river where people host fundraisers and weird events. I convinced myself it was a prank or a mistake. I told myself going would give me closure or at least a story. I wish I had stayed home. The day of the wedding felt wrong from the start. I remember getting dressed and feeling like I was putting on someone else's clothes. When I got there, the parking lot was half full. Cars I did not recognize. Families unloading decorations like they had done this 100 times. No signs with names. Just arrows pointing inside. I walked in and grabbed a seat near the back, trying to blend in. Everyone around me looked normal. Happy. No one looked confused except me. The decorations were simple. White folding chairs. Fake flowers tied with string. The kind of setup that feels rushed but personal. I kept scanning faces, trying to spot her. Trying not to. My heart was doing that annoying fast thing like it knew something before my brain caught up. I noticed the groom had not come out yet. People were waiting. Checking phones. Whispering without sound. When the music started, I felt sick. Not because of romance or nostalgia, but because it was a song she used to play on repeat during our last month together. Not a popular one. Not something random. Something specific enough that my hands went cold. I leaned forward in my chair, staring at the front, telling myself coincidences happen. Then I saw him, the groom. Except it was not him. It was me. Same height, same hairline, same stupid cowlick on the left side that never stays down. Same suit I wore to my cousin's wedding years ago, right down to the small tear in the sleeve seam. I stood up without realizing it. My knees almost gave out. I remember thinking it had to be a joke. A look-alike, a cruel one. But then he turned slightly and I saw the scar on his jaw. My scar. From a bike crash when I was 15. My head felt light. The room sounded far away. I sat back down because drawing attention felt dangerous. I watched myself walk to the front like it was normal. Like he belonged there. People smiled at him. No one reacted like this was strange. I started checking faces again, hoping someone else would notice. No one did. When the bride came out, I already knew. I still looked. It was her. Hair longer than when I last saw it. Dressed simple. face calm in a way that made my stomach twist. She looked straight ahead, not at me, not at him, just forward like this was inevitable. I do not remember the ceremony clearly. My brain blocked pieces out. I remember hands joining. I remember papers being signed. I remember the officiant stamping something with a loud sound that echoed too much. I remember feeling like I was fading while another version of me solidified. After it ended, people stood and clapped. I stayed seated. I watched them walk past me down the aisle. My ex never looked my way. The other me did. Just for a second. His face did not react. No smile. No shock. Just recognition, like he had been waiting to see if I would show up. I followed the crowd into the side room where food was set up. I needed proof. Something solid. On a table near the wall was a folder. Plain. Labeled with the date. Inside was the marriage license. Official. Stamped. Names printed clearly. Her full name. My full name. My real one. Correct spelling. Correct birth date. Correct address. My address. The one I was currently live at. My hands shook as I held it. This was not fake. It had seals and signatures and all the boring details that make things real. Legally binding. Effective immediately. I felt trapped in my own skin. I left without anyone stopping me. Outside, the air felt heavy. I sat in my car and stared at the steering wheel until my phone buzzed. A notification from the county records site. New document filed. Marital status updated. I did not sign anything. I did not consent. But according to everything that mattered on paper, I was married. The next few weeks were a blur of panic and research. Lawyers. Offices. Long waits. Every system said the same thing. The signature matched mine. The ID used was valid. The photos matched. It was like the world accepted him as me without question. When I tried to explain, people looked at me like I was pulling a bad joke. Things started changing fast. Mail addressed to both of us. Joint accounts opened without my approval. Notifications about insurance and benefits. My live felt invaded even when I was alone. I kept expecting to see him in mirrors or reflections. Sometimes I almost did. I finally saw her again at a grocery store near my place. She walked past me like I was furniture. No reaction. No fear. Like I was the copy, not the original. I did not follow her. I did not want answers anymore. Answers would not fix this. The last thing I found was another envelope under my door. Inside was a photocopy of the license with a sticky note. It said this version worked better. No name. No signature. Just that sentence. I moved out a month later. Changed states. Changed routines. But the records never changed. Somewhere she is still married to me. Or someone worrying me well enough that it counts. I used to think my apartment was loud in a normal way. Pipes clicking. Neighbors walking. The building settling. After the breakup, all of that got louder, like the place noticed I was alone and decided to mess with me. The first night I heard footsteps, I was laying on my couch scrolling on my phone, not even trying to sleep yet. It sounded like someone pacing slowly, heel to toe, right above my head. The problem was outlit on the top floor. I sat up and waited. The footsteps stopped. I waited longer, heart beating faster than it should have. Then they started again, closer this time, like they were in the room but softened, muffled, wrong. I walked around checking corners, closets, bathroom, behind the shower curtain, even though I knew it was dumb. Nothing. I went back to the couch and told myself I was just not used to being alone yet. Me and her had broken up 3 months before that. It was not explosive. It was draining. She took most of her stuff the same day and said she would come back for the rest later. Later never happened. I boxed her things and put them in storage because I did not want reminders. I wanted a clean live. I wanted quiet. The footsteps kept happening, always at night. Always slow, never rushed. Sometimes they sounded like they were crossing the room. Sometimes like they were circling the bed. Every time I jumped up to check, they stopped. It felt personal, like whatever it was knew exactly when I was paying attention. Sleep became a joke. I started leaving the TV on just to drown it out. Then food started disappearing. Nothing dramatic. A granola bar. A banana. Half a bag of chips I read was full the night before. I started keeping mental notes like I was tracking a thief. I blamed myself at first. Late nights make you forget things. Stress messes with your head. That was my excuse until I found a crumpled wrapper behind my couch that I knew I did not put there. One morning I woke up with that gross feeling that someone had been watching me. I checked my phone and saw my bedroom door was open. I always close it. Always. I stood there staring at it, trying to calm down, telling myself I probably forgot. The footsteps that night were louder than ever. Not above me. Not beside me. They sounded like they were inside the walls. I started noticing marks. Tiny scuffs on the wall near the floor. Scratches near the baseboard like something had been moved back and forth. My apartment is old, but not that old. I pressed my ear to the wall one night and heard breathing. Slow. Controlled. I backed away so fast I almost fell. I did not call anyone. I did not want to sound insane. Instead, I started staying up late, sitting still, lights off, listening. The footsteps would come and go. Sometimes I could tell where they were by the sound. Sometimes I could not. Once I heard something drop inside the wall, followed by a soft thud like a body shifting. The breaking point came when I found my toothbrush wet when I knew I had not used it yet. That was not something I could explain away. That was not pipes or stress or imagination. That was someone else. The next day I went to a hardware store and bought a cheap saw and a flashlight. The total was $47. My hands were sweating the whole drive back. I picked the wall behind my closet because that was where the sounds were strongest. I cleared the space and stared at the blank paint for a long time before cutting. Every second felt like I was making a mistake. When the saw went through, the sound echoed raw and hollow. Drywall dust filled the air. I cut a square big enough to live through. Behind it was darkness. Not empty. Not wiring. A space big enough for a person to fit. I pushed the flashlight in and felt my stomach drop. There was a mattress shoved against the far side, thin and stained. Empty food wrappers piled near it. Water bottles. A hoodie I recognized instantly because I bought it for her and she never gave it back. The air smelled old and human. I climbed inside even though every part of me said not to. The space was narrow and forced me to crouch. I saw a small lamp plugged into an extension cord that ran somewhere I could not see. There were notebooks stacked near the mattress. Diaries. I grabbed the top one and flipped it open. The dates made my chest feel tight. Entries written weeks after we broke up. Months after. She wrote about watching me sleep. About learning my routine. About how quiet I was without her. About hiding when I brought friends over. About how the wall made her feel close without being seen. I read page after page until my hands started shaking too much to hold it. There were notes about the footsteps. How she practiced walking soft. How she liked when I noticed but did nothing. How the wall felt safer than the outside. How this was temporary until I realized she belonged there. I backed out and stumbled into my room, slamming the cut piece of drywall back into place, even though it did nothing. I grabbed my phone and left. I did not pack. I did not look back. I drove until my gas light came on and then slept in my car with the seat reclined and the doors locked. When I came back with police the next day, the space was empty. Mattress gone. Wrappers gone. Diaries gone. Just dust and the outline of where things had been. They told me it looked like old storage. They told me there was no proof anyone had been there recently. They told me I should patch the wall. I moved out 2 weeks later. I still hear footsteps sometimes when I try to sleep. Not in my new place, in my head, slow, patient, like she is still there, just waiting for another wall. The first time I knew he had been in my apartment after the breakup, it was because my shoes were wrong. I kicked them off the night before and left them by the door like always, toes facing the wall. When I woke up, they were side by side, pointing out neat like I was about to leave. That sounds small, but it hit me hard. It felt like someone fixing your bed while you sleep. Helpful in a way that makes your skin crawl. We broke up clean. At least that is what I told myself. No screaming. No scenes. He took his stuff and left the spare key on the counter. I remember staring at it for a long time before tossing it in a drawer. I did not feel unsafe back then. Just tired. I wanted my lib back. I wanted quiet nights and control again. A week later, I changed the locks. It cost me $120, and the guy doing it acted like I was overreacting, like breakups always come with paranoia. I smiled and nodded and waited until he left before testing the lock 3 times. It felt solid. New. Mine. Things stayed calm for a bit. Then food started moving. Not missing exactly. Just shifted. My milk moved to the back of the fridge. Snacks I read the night before now open. I blamed muscle memory. Late nights mess with your head. I was working extra shifts and sleeping bad. It made sense until I found a mug in the sink I had not used. I started doing little tests without even realizing it. Leaving a cabinet slightly open. Placing a folded receipt on the counter. Every time I came home, something was off by just enough. Never messy. Never obvious. Like whoever it was did not want credit. The worst part was how normal everything else felt. My place did not look broken into. Nothing valuable gone. No signs of force. Just subtle changes that made me doubt myself. I would stand in the middle of the room trying to replay my movements like security footage. Did I move that? Did I forget? Did I imagine it? I changed the locks again. Different company. Better hardware. Another $140. I watched the installer leave and lock the door behind him. I felt ridiculous and relieved at the same time. That night I slept with my phone on my chest and the lights out in the hallway. The next morning, my bathroom mirror had been wiped clean, except for one foggy handprint near the edge. My stomach dropped so fast it hurt. I do not wipe mirrors. I barely clean. I stood there staring at it, trying to convince myself steam did it. But the print was too clear. Fingers spread, like someone checking their reflection. I started checking my place every night. Closets, under the bed, behind the shower curtain. I slept light and woke up at every sound. Sometimes I heard movement, soft, careful, like someone shifting weight slowly. I told myself it was the building. Old pipes, neighbors, but deep down I knew better. I bought a cheap camera and hid it on a shelf facing the door. The footage showed nothing. Hours of nothing. Then one night it stopped recording at 2:17 a.m. No glitch, no error. It just cut. When it came back on, the angle was slightly different, like it had been nudged. I stayed at a friend's place for 2 nights after that. When I came back, the apartment smelled faintly like his soap, the one he used when we were together. I stood in the doorway shaking, keys still in my hand, knowing for sure now. He was coming in. He never stopped. I searched everywhere for another key. Couch cushions, junk drawer, backpack. Nothing. I checked the locks again. No scratches. No damage. I even asked the building manager if maintenance had copies. They said no. Only tenants. Only me. That night I sat on my couch with all the lights off, phone in hand, listening. Hours passed. Just when I started to think I was losing it, I heard the door. Not opening. Unlocking. The soft click of a key turning slowly, carefully. My heart slammed so hard I thought I would throw up. I stayed frozen, barely breathing. The door never opened. The sound stopped. Like whoever it was changed their mind. I did not sleep at all. I watched the sun come up through the blinds feeling hollow. In the morning, there was a key on my counter. It was not one of mine. Different shape. Newer. Attached to a small white tag. Written on it in neat handwriting were 3 words, for emergencies. I did not touch it at first. I stared at it from across the room like it might move. My thoughts went wild trying to make sense of it. This was not sneaky anymore. This was a message. He wanted me to know he could get in whenever he wanted, that no lock mattered. I took the key and left. I went straight to the police with it. They took notes. They asked questions. They said without proof of forced entry or threats, there was not much they could do. They suggested a restraining order. They suggested staying somewhere else for a while. They gave the key back in a plastic bag. When I got home, the key was gone. In its place was a folded piece of paper. Not a note exactly, just a list. Times, dates, notes about my schedule. When I left, when I came back, how long I was gone, what I wore. Things only someone inside would know. I packed a bag and left that night. I did not tell anyone where I was going. I changed my number. I moved apartments a month later. New building, new locks, new routines. Sometimes when I get home now, I still pause before turning the key. Sometimes I check the counter first thing. I have never found another key, but I know better than to believe that means anything. The envelope ruined my whole morning before I even opened it. Thick paper. Official weight. My name typed clean like someone cared. I stood in my kitchen holding it, already annoyed because I knew it was going to be something expensive or stressful. Jury duty or taxes or some mistake I would have to fix. I had no idea it was about to tell me my lid was not mine anymore. It was a summons. Family court. My name listed as respondent. The words legal spouse were printed like they belonged there. I read it 3 times because my brain kept skipping that part. I had not dated anyone since my ex. I had not even gone on a bad coffee meetup. Married was not a word that applied to me anymore. I sat down on the floor and read the date again. 2 weeks out. Mandatory appearance. My ex and I broke up almost a year earlier. It was messy in a quiet way. Lots of long talks that went nowhere. Her crying without tears. Me feeling tired and stuck. She kept saying we were meant to end up together no matter what. I laughed it off back then. I should not have. When we split, she moved out fast. Blocked me on everything. Disappeared like she wanted to be chased, but also feared it. I tried calling the court number on the paper. Automated menus. Long hold. When I finally got through, a clerk confirmed it like it was nothing. Marriage recorded. Valid license. Filed months ago. She gave me the date. I felt sick because I did not remember that day at all. I knew where I was supposed to be then. Work. A long shift. Coworkers. Proof. None of it mattered to her. The days leading up to court felt fake, like I was watching someone else deal with it. I pulled bank statements, work schedules, phone records, anything to prove I was not where they said I was. Every night I dreamed I was late to something important and could not find my shoes. The courthouse was smaller than I expected. Beige walls, bad lighting, the kind of place that feels tired. I sat on a hard bench waiting for my name, surrounded by people who looked just as stressed. When they called me in, my legs felt weak when I stood up anyway. This was real. Pretending it was not had stopped working. The judge looked bored. Papers shuffled. My ex was not there in person. Her lawyer was. Calm. Confident. Like this was routine. They laid out the case fast. Marriage certificate. Filed correctly. Witnesses listed. Photos submitted as evidence. When they handed the photos to the judge, I felt a strange calm, like whatever was about to happen was already decided. Then the photos were passed to me. I almost dropped them. It was me. No doubt about it, same face. Same scar on my eyebrow. Same jacket I owned and lost months earlier. I was sitting in a chair decorated with cheap flowers. Her hand on my shoulder, my eyes closed. My mouth curved into a smile that did not feel like mine. I looked peaceful. Asleep. Unaware. There were more. Me standing with support. Me leaning slightly. Me signing something with my hand guided. Every picture showed me smiling. Not wide. Not fake. Soft. Content, like I wanted to be there. My stomach turned. I had no memory of this. None. I read the date stamped on the back. It matched the court record. I knew exactly where I was supposed to be that day, and yet here I was in these photos, dressed for a ceremony I never agreed to. They said I had been unwell, that I had consented earlier, that everything was documented. Witnesses testified through signed statements, saying I was happy, just tired, that I joked quietly, that I squeezed her hand. It felt like they were describing someone else using my body. I tried to explain that I did not remember any of it, that something was wrong, that this could not be legal. The judge listened with the same expression people use when a customer complains about a receipt. Polite. Distant. The law cares about paperwork more than memory. The ruling was simple. The marriage was valid. Any challenge would require proof of wrongdoing. Not confusion. Not fear. Proof. I walked out of the courthouse numb. The sun felt too bright. My phone buzzed with messages from work asking where I was. My lid felt like it was shrinking around me. Married. Tied to someone I had not spoken to in almost a year. Someone who planned this while I thought she was gone. That night I went through my apartment looking for anything that explained the missing time. I checked old messages. Photos. Calendar entries. There was a gap. 2 days around the ceremony date that felt thin. Like pages torn out. I found a receipt for a hotel I never stayed at. Paid in cash. The handwriting on a signature line looked like mine, but shaky. I found a small bottle in a box I had not opened since the breakup. No label. Just a pharmacy sticker with her name scratched off. I did not know what it was. I did not want to. A week later, paperwork started arriving. Joint tax notices, insurance updates. Mail addressed to both of us. It felt like the world accepted this version of events without question. I tried to contact her through a lawyer. No response. She did not need to talk to me. She already had what she wanted. The last thing I received was a printed photo in my mailbox. Not folded, not protected, just placed there. It was a close-up from the ceremony. My face tilted toward hers, eyes closed, smiling. On the back was the date and one sentence written small. You looked happiest when you did not know. I still do not remember that day. I still wake up sometimes feeling like I lost time and never got it back. According to the law, I am married. According to my head, I was never there. Both things exist at the same time, and neither one cares how I feel about it. The first message showed up on a random Tuesday afternoon while I was waiting for my laundry to finish. I almost ignored it because his name still made my stomach drop even months after the breakup. I had not blocked him yet, mostly because part of me wanted to believe we ended like adults. The message was short and weirdly polite. It mentioned my heart rate being higher than normal and suggested I drink water and rest. No emojis, no jokes, just that. I stared at my phone for a long time. I was tired, sure, but I had not told anyone. I checked my watch without thinking. The numbers matched what he described. I told myself it was coincidence. People say stuff like that all the time. Stress, weather, life. I put my phone down and tried to forget it. The next day he texted again, this time about my sleep. Said it looked rough and that I should stop staying up so late. I had been up until almost 3 watching dumb videos because my brain would not shut off. Again accurate. Again unsettling. I scrolled back to our old messages wondering if I had shared something without remembering. I had not. We broke up 6 months earlier. It was not dramatic, just heavy. He was controlling in quiet ways. Always checking in. Always noticing things before I did. At the time I called it caring. Now it felt like surveillance. After we split, I reset my live as much as I could. New routines. New habits. I kept the same fitness tracker because it was expensive, and I liked the band. The messages kept coming. Always framed like concern. My steps were lower than usual. My hydration was off. My stress levels spiked around 11 p.m. Every single thing lined up with what I could see on my own tracker app. I stopped wearing it for a day to test it. That night he texted about missing data and asked if I forgot it somewhere. I felt my chest tighten. I did not reply. I turned the tracker back on the next day because not wearing it felt like letting him win somehow. That night, I got a message about my body temperature being slightly elevated and maybe catching something. I checked. Again, right. I started sleeping with my phone face down. I stopped checking messages right away. It did not help. Knowing he could see my body without seeing me made me feel exposed in a way I could not explain. It was like being watched from the inside. I went through every app setting I could find. Permissions. Connections. Devices. Everything looked normal. My account showed only my phone. No shared access. No alerts. I even changed my password twice. Nothing changed. The messages kept coming. One afternoon at work, I felt dizzy and had to sit down. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. He had noticed my heart rate spike and told me to take it easy. That was the moment I stopped pretending this was harmless. I had not told anyone at work. I had not posted anything. The only place that data existed was on my body and on that tracker. I went home early and tore my apartment apart looking for answers. I checked my laptop for anything weird. My phone for hidden apps. My router logs even though I barely understood them. Everything looked clean. I sat on the floor feeling stupid and watched my watch glow softly on my wrist like it was mocking me. That night, another message came through. This one different. Less caring. More casual. It explained that my tracker still syncs to his phone. No apology. No surprise. Just a statement, like reminding me of something obvious. My hands shook so bad I almost dropped my phone. I went straight to the tracker app and dug deeper than before. Buried in settings I never touched was an old pairing from when we used to compare steps for fun. His device name was still there. Active. Sensing quietly in the background. Every heartbeat. Every step. Every restless night. All of it going to him. I disconnected it immediately. Unpaired everything. Reset the tracker fully. Turned it off. I sat there breathing hard, feeling like I had just locked a door I did not know was open. I expected relief. Instead, I felt sick. An hour later, my phone buzzed. He noticed the data stopped. He said it was probably a glitch and asked if I changed something. I did not answer. I blocked his number. I thought that would be the end of it. The next morning, I woke up to an email from him. Different account. He mentioned my resting heart rate from overnight and said it seemed calmer. I felt like screaming. The tracker was off. Sitting on my dresser. Dead. I realized then this was not just about the tracker. That was just the excuse. He had learned my patterns so well that even without live data, he could guess. When I slept, when I moved, when I stressed, he had months of information, maybe years. My body turned into a schedule he memorized. I stopped wearing the tracker completely. I deleted the app. I threw the device in a drawer and taped it shut. The messages slowed but did not stop. Now they were guesses framed as concern. Sometimes he was wrong, sometimes close enough to make my skin crawl. I changed my number, locked down my socials, told friends. A few laughed it off like tech is creepy sometimes. I stopped trying to explain it. Explaining made it feel smaller than it was. The last message came weeks later through a shared calendar I forgot we both still had access to. It mentioned my stress levels improving and said he was glad. There was no threat, no demand, just that calm tone that always made me second guess myself. I deleted the calendar, wiped everything, moved on as much as I could, but sometimes late at night, I still feel like my body is reporting to someone else. Like my pulse is louder than it should be, like being unseen does not mean being untracked. The first friend to disappear was the one I talked to every day, which is how I knew something was wrong right away. Not a fight, not drama. Just slower replies and no replies and nothing at all. I told myself people get busy. People grow up. That is what everyone says when things fall apart quietly. I did not panic yet. I should have. Me and her broke up about 4 months before all this started. It was not explosive, just heavy and confusing. She always said she understood me better than anyone else. At the time, I thought that was sweet. Later, it felt like a warning I missed. After the breakup, I leaned harder on my friends. Game nights, late calls, dumb plans just to feel normal again. They were there, until they were not. After the first friend went quiet, 2 more followed. Group chats dried up. Invites stopped. I would send something casual and get left undelivered for days. When someone finally replied, it was short and careful, like they were typing with someone watching. I started replaying every conversation in my head and wondering what I did wrong. I ran into one of them at a grocery store near my place. It felt like relief at first, seeing a familiar face. But the vibe was off instantly. They were polite in a stiff way, like talking to a coworker you barely know. No jokes. No catch-up energy. When I asked how things were going, they gave me this calm, measured response about focusing on balance and personal growth. That phrase hit me hard because it was something she used to say all the time when she thought someone was being difficult. I brushed it off. Coincidences happen. People pick up phrases. Still, it stuck with me. Over the next few weeks, I saw more of them. Always by accident. Always the same feeling. Polite. Distant. Like I was someone they used to know but did not anymore. What messed me up was how similar they all sounded. Not just the words, but the tone. Calm. Careful. Almost rehearsed. When I talked about feeling isolated, they responded with stuff about boundaries and accountability. Words she loved. Words she used when she wanted to sound reasonable of cutting someone off. I started checking old messages between me and her, read them late at night trying to see patterns. She always talked about how my friends did not really get me. How they enabled bad habits. How she wished they would stop filling my head with nonsense. I used to roll my eyes at that. Now it felt like a plan. One night I finally got a reply from a friend I had known since high school. We met up for coffee. I went hoping for comfort. What I got was distance wrapped in politeness. It listened without reacting much. Nodded, waited for me to finish. Then they said I should reflect on how my actions affect others and maybe take some time to work on myself. I froze because that was almost word for word something she used to tell me after arguments. I asked if they had talked to her. They avoided the question, said they had heard things. Nothing specific, just that people grow and sometimes distance is healthy. Healthy was another one of her words. I left early, hands shaking, feeling like I was losing my grip on reality. After that, I started noticing it everywhere. Online posts from friends using her phrasing, captions about healing and letting go, stories about protecting peace. It felt like she had copied herself into them, like she was speaking through their mouths now that she did not have access to mine. I finally confronted one of them over text, not accusing, just asking what was going on. The response came hours later and felt too calm. It said they cared but needed space because I was not in a good place emotionally and tended to twist situations. Twist. Another one of her favorites. I stared at the screen until my eyes hurt. I realized then that whatever she told them, it worked. Not by turning them angry against me. Worse, she turned them gentle, understanding, reasonable. No one wants to argue with someone being calm. It makes you look unstable by comparison. I tried reaching out to people outside our circle, coworkers, old classmates. Most were fine, normal, which almost made it worse. It proved I was not imagining everything. This was targeted, personal. The last straw was a birthday gathering I heard about through social media. Everyone was there. People I used to be close to. I was not invited. I showed up anyway, telling myself I deserved answers. When I walked in, the room went quiet for half a second. Not dramatic, just enough to notice. They smiled, waved, acted like everything was fine. I talked to a few of them one by one. Every conversation felt the same. Surface level. Careful. When I tried to go deeper, they redirected. Said I should focus on positivity. Said I needed to stop revisiting the past. Said some people just are not good for group dynamics. Group dynamics was something she said during one argument when I pushed back on her isolating me. It clicked then. She did not need to lie. She just needed to frame me. Emotional. Draining. Unstable. She knew exactly which words would stick because she used them on me first. She trained them to see me the way she wanted. I left early and sat in my car for a long time, hands on the wheel, trying not to cry. It felt like my life had been edited without my permission. Like scenes were removed and replaced with a version of me I did not recognize. I blocked her on everything that night. Not that she had reached out in months. Blocking her felt pointless and necessary at the same time. The damage was already done. Over time, a few friends slowly came back, quietly, apologetically. They said things felt off later, that the stories did not line up, that the way she talked about me was calm but intense. They did not know how to explain it without sounding dramatic. I understood. Sounding dramatic is the trap. Some never came back. When I run into them now, they are still polite, still distant, still using her phrases like they belong to them. I do not argue anymore. Arguing feeds the story. What stays with me is how easy it was. She did not yell. She did not threaten. She just planted herself in the spaces I was not in and spoke softly until everyone listened. By the time I noticed, she did not need to be there anymore. She was already echoing through them. It started with a sound I recognized too fast. Not a voice exactly, but a rhythm. The rise and fall of words the way I use them when I am upset. The pause before explaining myself. The slight rush when I feel like I am not being heard. I was brushing my teeth when I heard it through the wall, muffled but familiar enough that I froze with toothpaste dripping down my chin. It sounded like me arguing. Not arguing with someone in my apartment. Arguing in the apartment next door. I pressed my hand against the wall and stood still listening. The walls in this building are thin in that cheap way where you hear neighbors sneeze and laugh and drop things. But this was different. This was controlled. Paced. Like someone practicing. I heard the same sentence pattern repeated a few times, each time softer, then louder, then broken up by heavy breathing. My stomach sank. My neighbor was a guy who moved in a few months ago. Quiet, polite, nodded in the hallway. I barely noticed him except for the sound of his tiv sometimes. I had no reason to think about him. Until now. Me and my ex broke up almost half a year ago. It was bad in a slow way. He studied me. Not in a cute way. In a way that made me feel like I was being recorded. He used to repeat things I said back to me later perfectly. I told myself that meant he listened. Now it felt like training. The sounds next door got louder. Pacing. Footsteps matching the exact pace I use when I am frustrated. Heel drag. Pause. Turn. I felt dizzy. I leaned my forehead against the wall and listened harder, hating myself for it. Then I heard it. part that made my legs go weak. He started crying. Not loud, not messy, quiet crying. Controlled breaths breaking just enough to sound real. It was the way I cry when I am trying not to be heard. The way I cried during our worst nights together. Same timing. Same catch in the breath. Even little sniff I do when my nose starts running. I slid down the wall and sat on the floor. My heart was racing. I kept thinking maybe this was coincidence stacked on coincidence. People cry. People argue. People sound similar. But this was too specific. Too close. The sound stopped suddenly. Silence. I sat there for a long time, afraid to move, afraid that if I did he would somehow know I was listening. When I finally stood up, my legs felt weak. I locked my door even though I was already inside. That night, I barely slept. Every sound made me tense. I kept imagining him standing on the other side of the wall, ear pressed against it, learning me better. Around 2 in the morning, it started again, softer this time, like rehearsal. The same emotional pattern repeated over and over. Frustration, pause, sadness, apology tone. The exact order I always fall into. The next day, I tried to act normal. I went to work, laughed when I was supposed to, but my head was stuck on that wall, on the crying, on how familiar it felt. When I came home, his door was cracked open. I caught a glimpse of the inside by accident, boxes stacked neatly, a chair facing the shared wall. Nothing else I could see. It felt staged. The sounds kept happening every night. Sometimes it was anger, sometimes sadness, sometimes that exhausted tone I get when I am done trying. Always me. Always my patterns. I started recording it on my phone, holding it up to the wall with shaking hands. The playback made it worse. Hearing my own emotional blueprint coming from someone else's space messed with my head. I finally checked public records and realized something that made my skin crawl. He moved in right after my ex moved out of his old place. Different name. Same age. Same general look. I found a photo online through a mutual connection. It was him. Older haircut. Different clothes. Same eyes. I realized then that he was not just copying me. He was preparing. Rehearsing conversations that had not happened yet. Practicing being me so he could speak for me if he needed to. Like an understudy waiting for the lead to disappear. One night I heard him practicing my laugh. That stupid half laugh I do when I am uncomfortable. He did it over and over until it sounded right. I covered my mouth to stop myself from making any noise. I felt like my identity was leaking through the wall. I stopped making calls in my apartment, stopped talking out loud. I texted instead. I felt ridiculous but also safer. The quieter I was, the louder he seemed to get, like he needed the material, like silence frustrated him. Then one night, he stopped rehearsing me. Instead, I heard him practicing a calm voice, a reasonable one. The voice people use when they want to sound believable. The voice my ex used when talking about me to others. My chest tightened as I realized what this was leading to. A few days later, a neighbor from another floor messaged me asking if everything was okay. They said they heard wording arguments coming from my place late at night, that I sounded upset, unstable. I stared at the message until my hands went numb. I went straight to the building manager. I explained as clearly as I could without sounding unhinged. They said they would look into noise complaints. Nothing came of it. To them, noise is noise. Voices are voices. Proof matters more than patterns. The last night I stayed there, I heard him cry harder than ever. Full breakdown. Pacing. Hitting the wall lightly like I do when I am overwhelmed. Then silence, followed by slow clapping. Not loud, just enough to hear. I'd moved out the next day. No notice. Just packed what I could and left. I stayed with a friend across town. New walls. Thicker ones. Quiet ones. Sometimes I still catch myself wondering if the way I sound has changed. If I talk differently now. If pieces of me are still echoing somewhere else. I avoid apartments with shared walls now. I avoid letting people learn me too well. Because once someone memorizes how you break, they can practice being you better than you can protect yourself. I never thought a stupid breakup could turn into something that made me question my own head. I moved into this tiny apartment right after we split, thinking new walls would mean a clean slate. The place was cheap, like $650 a month, which was perfect because I was broke and barely keeping it together. It wasn't much, one bedroom, a tiny kitchen that smelled like old oil, and a living room that had this weird corner where the shadows always hung. I didn't care. I just wanted to sleep and forget she existed. The first night I noticed it, I woke up at 3:17. I'm not joking about the time. The clock glowed green, staring at me like it had been waiting for me to notice. The lights were flickering on and off, fast enough to make my head throb, but slow enough that I could see the walls jumping in rhythm. I thought it was just the old wiring, maybe the city power fluctuating. I went back to sleep. Then it happened again. Next night, same time. Same flickering. I brushed it off again. Then the night after that, I heard the buzz of my phone. I wasn't even awake enough to reach for it yet. The screen lit up with her name. Just a message. Just checking your breathing. My stomach dropped. I froze for a minute, thinking I must be dreaming. She had broken up with me weeks ago. I blocked her on everything. I didn't respond. I turned over, trying to tell myself it was coincidence. Maybe someone hacked my number. I fell asleep eventually, but not before staring at the ceiling, thinking about every time she said she'd never let me sleep peacefully again. I thought it was just talk. I was wrong. It started to escalate. The lights didn't just flicker. Sometimes they would go completely out, leaving the room in darkness so thick I felt that I could reach out and touch it. Other times, they'd flash bright like someone was taking pictures. I couldn't figure out the pattern. Every night I'd try to sleep earlier later with the TV on with music on. Nothing worked. It was always 3:17, every single night. Then she started texting more. Sometimes it was just one line, "I see you," or "I know you're awake." The messages didn't make sense. I hadn't answered any. I didn't call anyone. But every night my phone would buzz exactly at 3:17. Sometimes the text would come while the lights flickered. Sometimes after. It was always her. I started checking my phone before bed to make sure it was off. I blocked her number again and again, using every trick I could find online. The texts still came. Every night at 3:17. At first, I thought maybe I had malware or something, but nothing showed up when I ran scans. It was like she knew how to get to me no matter what. It got worse when I started noticing other things. Objects would move slightly. Books I swore I left on the desk would be on the floor. My jacket would hang inside out. I blamed myself at first, thinking I was just tired or spacing out. But one night, the flickering lights stopped for a second, and I saw her standing in the doorway of my bedroom. I blinked. Nothing. My heart was hammering, and my phone buzzed again. Sleeping yet? I stopped sleeping, or at least I tried. I worked late, stayed at friends' places, anything to avoid being alone in the apartment after dark. But she had made it clear she didn't need me there to reach me. The messages found me everywhere, and even when I was somewhere else, I would dream about her. The lights flickering, the shadows stretching in ways that made no sense, her face appearing just at the edge of vision. One night I tried recording the room with my phone while I slept. I left it on the desk, pointed at the bed. When I played it back, it wasn't what I expected. The lights didn't just flicker. They pulsed, and shadows stretched like fingers across the walls. And there she was, sitting at the end of my bed, her head tilted, watching me sleep. The screen glitched every time she moved, but I could see enough. Then she looked straight at the camera, smiling. After that, I didn't go to sleep in my bedroom. I slept on the couch with a blanket over my head, lights on, fan running, TD blasting. Didn't matter. 3:17 came anyway. The buzzing in my phone, the flickering, the feeling of being watched. I'd even tried leaving the apartment for a week. Came back, same deal. Friends told me I needed to call the cops or a therapist. I didn't. Who would I tell that my ex was somehow in my apartment every night, texting me, showing up in videos and dreams? They'd think I lost it. Honestly, I was scared of admitting it to anyone. It felt like she wanted me to be alone, desperate, and it was working. Eventually, I started noticing little things during the day too. A chair slightly out of place, the sound of footsteps when no one was home, my phone lighting up with a message from a number that wasn't hers anymore, just digits. 3:17 kept following me. I'd glance at clocks, watch my phone, anything to avoid seeing that number. Last night, I woke up at 3:17 again. The lights were off, but my phone was buzzing. I didn't look. I didn't reach. I stayed frozen under my blanket, praying it was a nightmare. Then the power came back. The lights flickered, then stayed steady, and my phone vibrated one last time. Good night for now. I don't know what that means. I don't know if she's gone. I don't know if I'm going crazy, but I do know I can't leave my apartment, can't sleep right, can't escape 3:17. It's like she's inside my life now, a permanent presence that I can't shake no matter what I do. I'm tired, I'm terrified, and she's still checking my breathing every night. I started noticing it a few weeks after we broke up. I thought I was just paranoid at first, but it got worse so fast that I couldn't ignore it. It started small, like glimpses out of the corner of my eye, a shadow where it shouldn't be, a reflection in a window that didn't match anything in the room. I live alone in a small apartment that costs $720 a month, and I never have visitors except for the occasional delivery. I used to think that was enough to feel safe. I was wrong. At first, I didn't see him directly. I never did. Not once. It's always mirrors, windows, phone screens, shiny surfaces. It's like he exists only as a reflection. Sometimes I'd be brushing my teeth, and in the mirror behind me, I'd catch a shape that looked like him. I'd spin around, heart hammering, and there'd be nothing. I told myself I was imagining it, that maybe my brain was making me see things because of stress or guilt or leftover anger. But then it got worse. I started noticing him everywhere. The first time I saw him in a phone screen, I was video calling a friend. I looked at my reflection in the tiny black screen of the phone while waiting for her to pick up, and there he was, standing right behind me. Not close enough to touch, but close enough that I could feel his presence. I froze. I didn't turn around. I didn't even blink. I just stared, trying to convince myself it was a trick of the light, but it wasn't. The shape, the posture, the way he leaned slightly like he always did, it was him. I stopped using mirrors in my apartment. I covered every window with blankets so I couldn't see outside reflections. I even stopped using my phone for video calls because every time I did, he was there, standing behind me. Sometimes I would catch him in store windows when I walked by, and even in the glossy surfaces of vending machines or ATMs. Always behind me, always just out of reach. It's not like he texts or calls anymore. He doesn't need to. He's always there, invisible if I look directly, terrifying if I glance sideways. I've tried changing my routine. I moved my furniture around, rearranged my apartment, tried to change my appearance, even went out for long stretches to avoid being alone. None of it works. He's there when I come back, always behind me. I can't sleep in my bedroom anymore. I sleep on the couch, lights on, but I catch him in the reflection of the TV sometimes, looming behind me in the glossy black screen when it's off. He doesn't move much, just watches. I've tried recording the room while I sleep, but the camera never picks him up. Only the reflection shows him. I don't understand it. I don't understand why he's not in the actual space. Just reflections. I even went outside one night, desperate to be away from my apartment. I walked down streets with neon signs, empty sidewalks, hoping that being in public would make him disappear. It didn't. He showed up in the store windows, in the reflective panels of parked cars, in the dark glass of closed businesses. Always behind me. Always looking at me. I tried to tell myself I was going crazy, that this had to be some psychological trick, but the consistency scared me more than anything. Friends told me to call the cops. I didn't. What could I say? That my ex is haunting my reflections. They'd think I lost it. I didn't want anyone involved. I didn't want to explain that I could feel him there, even when no one else could. It's worse than seeing someone in your apartment. It's knowing they're always there and no one else can see it, which makes you feel like you're disappearing inside your own life. I started sleeping with my back against the wall, just so I could see every reflective surface in the room at once. Even that doesn't stop him. Sometimes when I shift in my sleep, I catch the glint of him in a kitchen window or the polished floor of my bathroom, always standing there, just behind me. I've stopped looking directly at him, because when I do, he vanishes. It's like he's made to exist only in the moments I'm not facing him. One night, I tried to confront it. I sat in front of my bathroom mirror, staring into it, daring him to appear. I waited for hours, watching the reflection of the empty room behind me. And then he was there, right behind me. I could feel the pressure in my chest, my shoulders tensing, my breath catching. I didn't move. I couldn't move. I just stared, and then he disappeared. Not slowly, not fading, just gone like someone switched off a light. After that night, I stopped sleeping again. I started sitting up at all hours, lights on, checking every reflection multiple times before going to bed. I avoid all surfaces that could reflect me. My apartment looks like a blackout museum. No mirrors, no windows, no shiny tables, nothing that could let him in. But I know he's still there, waiting for me to lower my guard, waiting for me to forget he exists behind me again. Sometimes I'll glance at the phone in my pocket when I'm texting or scrolling, and I see him. There, behind me, in the black screen. Standing still, silent, watching. I don't know if he's angry or just satisfied. I don't know what he wants. All I know is that he's always behind me. No matter where I go, no matter what I do, he's in the reflections. I can't look directly. I can't turn to face him, and I can't get rid of him. He's part of my life now. Part of my world that no one else can see. I don't leave the apartment much anymore. I avoid stores with reflective surfaces. I take my phone out only when I have to. I even started wearing sunglasses indoors, just so I don't catch a glimpse of him in windows or glossy floors. It's exhausting. It's terrifying. He's always behind me waiting, and I can't stop seeing him. I can't stop knowing he's there. Last night, I was in the kitchen, making a sandwich, and I caught him in the reflection of the toaster, just standing there, behind me, watching. I didn't turn around. I didn't move. I just kept making my sandwich, heart pounding, hands shaking. He didn't leave. I don't think he ever will. I first noticed something was off the day I went out for coffee alone. I had broken up with her 2 weeks before, thinking it was over for good. I moved into a tiny studio for $580 a month, trying to get my life together. I was exhausted, emotionally drained, and honestly didn't care much about seeing anyone. But as I walked past the corner of the street, I saw a guy sitting at a bench who looked exactly like me. Same height, same haircut, same hoodie I had thrown on that morning. I stopped, heart racing, thinking maybe it was my twin I never knew about, but it wasn't him. He looked at me, smiled a little, and nodded, then he walked away. At first, I laughed it off, telling myself it was a coincidence. People had doppelgangers sometimes, but then it started happening more. At the bus stop, a guy ordering food, even in the grocery store aisle, men who looked exactly like me. All of them acted weird when they saw me. They didn't talk to me, not in words, but their expressions, the way they froze for a second, like they were warning me about something. It didn't click until the third one. I was walking through this cheap diner, the kind where coffee is $2 and the stools squeak when you sit down. I walked past the counter and he was there. Not just any guy, but him. My face. Everything about him. He looked at me and his eyes were terrified. I froze. And then he shook his head subtly, almost frantic, like he was trying to tell me something without speaking. And that's when I realized all of them had dated her. All of them. After that, I started running into them on purpose, keeping an eye out for anyone who looked like me. Every time, it was the same. Same height, same hair, same awkward posture. Each one looked panicked when they saw me, and sometimes one would follow me a little, just far enough to get my attention, then vanish into the crowd. None of them said anything out loud, but it was clear. They were warning me not to leave. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe I was seeing patterns where there weren't any. Maybe it was a psychological trick because I was obsessed with her still. But then one night, walking back to my apartment that costs $580, I saw 3 of them together on the sidewalk. All of them staring at me like I was about to make a huge mistake. I stopped, heart hammering, and they scattered before I could approach. But the message was clear. Every single one had been with her. Every single one had tried to escape. And none of them had managed. It got worse after that. I started noticing them everywhere, in places I shouldn't. Sitting across from me in class at night, in a random park, on the bus going the same route. Every time I felt this cold pressure in my chest, like the air around me thickened. I started carrying a notebook, writing down every sighting, every interaction, trying to make sense of it. Sometimes I would catch a look in their eyes, and it was like they were screaming without sound, warning me. I tried to run, tried to avoid the streets she liked, the coffee shops she frequented, even the park where we'd gone together once, but they always appeared. One night, I stayed at a friend's apartment in a different neighborhood, thinking that distance would help. I was wrong. I read the news the next morning, and there he was. Not just him, but me. Sitting on a bench near her old apartment building. Same hoodie, same slouch, same vacant look in the eyes. And then I noticed a pattern. Every time she left me, every time she moved on, she left a trail of men who looked like me. And they were all trapped in the same cycle, warning the next one. I stopped going to my favorite spots. I avoided public places. I tried to disappear. I thought maybe if I stayed in my $580 studio all day, they wouldn't find me. But she always did. Somehow she always did. One night, I was lying on the couch, scrolling through my phone, and I saw a notification from a new dating app account. It wasn't just any account. The photo was me. Same hoodie, same tired expression. I froze. It had to be one of the copies. A warning, I knew that now. Don't leave or you'll end up like us. I tried ignoring it, tried deleting the app, tried changing my number. Nothing worked. Men who looked exactly like me started showing up at random places in the city. I saw them in reflections in store windows, in the lenses of cameras in public spaces, even in the glossy surfaces of parked cars. All of them staring at me, all of them with that same terrified expression. It was like they were trapped, like she had made them into warnings. I started seeing them in the apartment too. At first, I thought I was losing my mind. I would glance up from my laptop or my phone, and there they were in the corner of my vision. Not moving, just watching. I tried calling friends, tried talking to them about it, but no one understood. They thought I was stressed, paranoid. I knew better. I knew what I was seeing was real, and every time I saw one of them, I felt like the air got heavier, the walls closing in. I even tried confronting her once, just to see if it would break the cycle. I walked past her new place, careful not to knock or call, and when I looked up, 3 men were walking past her door. Men who looked exactly like me. They looked at me, panicked, then vanished. I didn't go in. I couldn't. The warning was clear. Everyone who tried to leave ended up like them. Stuck, scared, trapped in the same loop. I stopped leaving my apartment altogether after that. I avoid mirrors, windows, reflective surfaces, anything that could show me what I don't want to see. But sometimes when I glance at my phone or in the reflection of the screen, I see them. My face staring back, eyes wide, terrified, warning me not to leave. And I know she's watching. She always is. And if I try to leave, I'll end up like them. Another copy trapped in her orbit, warning the next guy. I don't go outside anymore. I don't answer the phone. I don't respond to messages. I stay inside my $580 studio, staring at the walls, trying to ignore the creeping sensation that she's still out there, and the copies are too. Waiting, watching, warning me. And I know I'll never escape it. I'll never be free. The copies are everywhere. They're all me, and the next warning is always ready. It started out like a normal night. I was sitting at my desk in my tiny studio apartment, which costs $600 a month, just scrolling through my phone. I had broken up with her a week ago, and I knew I needed to vent somewhere, anywhere, without talking to anyone directly. I'd opened up my social media app and started typing a breakup post, the kind where you pour everything out in tiny sentences, half for yourself, half for everyone else to read. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, and I felt that weird mix of anger, relief, and sadness that always comes right after a breakup. I started typing slowly, carefully. I wanted it to hit the right note, not too dramatic, but still honest. The room was quiet, except for the faint hum of the refrigerator and my fan buzzing in the corner. I had my laptop open too, with some music playing low, trying to make the vibe right for writing. I typed a few lines about how I felt trapped, about how I couldn't believe I let myself get so invested in someone who didn't see me. Then I paused to reread it. I was thinking about the ending, how I wanted to sign off with something that would feel like closure. I started typing the final sentence in my head, slow, deliberate, choosing each word like it mattered. My fingers started moving, and that's when I noticed it. The notification popped up almost immediately. Her name. She had commented. I thought it was a random comment, maybe a generic reaction. But the words on my screen made my stomach drop. She typed the ending of my post, word for word. Every single word I was about to type, she had posted before I even finished it. I froze. My hands hovered above the keyboard. I stared at the comment like my brain couldn't process what I was seeing. It was impossible. I hadn't hit enter. I hadn't saved it. I hadn't even fully committed to typing it yet. And there it was, staring back at me in her comment like she was reading my mind. I closed the app and reopened it. Nothing changed. The comment was still there, word for word. I started questioning myself. Was I dreaming? Maybe I had typed it earlier, saved it as a draft, and forgotten. I checked the drafts folder. Empty. Nothing. My phone hadn't been hacked, or at least nothing showed up on my security scans. I even ran a virus scan. Clean. My apartment, this $600 shoebox of a studio, felt suddenly smaller, claustrophobic. I couldn't explain it. I couldn't rationalize it. She had somehow posted my exact words before I finished typing them. After that night, I started noticing other things. Every time I started thinking about her, I would get small messages or notifications that seemed timed just right. Nothing that made sense, nothing that I could trace directly. It was like she had access to my thoughts, like she could see the exact moment I started forming a sentence about her, and she beat me to it. It didn't happen every day, but often enough to make me paranoid. I stopped typing anything about her for weeks. Even casual mentions in messages to friends felt risky. I tried avoiding her online completely. I deleted apps, logged out of accounts, even stopped checking my email. But it didn't stop. Sometimes I would open my phone for something completely unrelated, a weather app or a calculator, and there it was. A notification with her name, a comment, or a message that eerily mirrored what I was thinking or about to do. I started keeping a notebook, writing down what I wanted to type or post in advance. It didn't work. Somehow, she always knew the ending. I even changed the way I typed. I would start sentences with random words, mess up the order, try to trick whatever was happening. But it was pointless. It didn't matter how I phrased it. If the thought was there in my mind, she would comment it before I could finish. The timing was always just right, never early, never late. Always at the exact moment I reached the ending in my thoughts. It got worse when I tried talking to friends about it. I mentioned casually that she was acting like she could read my mind, and they laughed. They thought I was exaggerating or stressed. One friend suggested it was just coincidence. Another said I was letting paranoia get to me, but I knew better. I could feel it in my chest, a constant tightening. I could feel her presence in the act of typing, in the pause before hitting send, as if she was there in the room with me. I stopped posting altogether. I didn't write about her. I didn't talk about her. I didn't think about her in ways that might show up in words. I tried to block her completely, every account, every number. But I found ways to see her anyway. She had created fake accounts, always popping up in comments or posts with little hints, just enough to remind me she was still there watching. And sometimes I would catch a comment that I hadn't even written yet, something I was planning, something I hadn't even finished thinking. One night, lying in bed, I opened my phone just to scroll mindlessly. I wasn't thinking about her. I wasn't planning a post. And then the notification came. She had commented something that I had only formed a thought of, not even words yet. Not a single letter typed. My chest tightened so much I could barely breathe. I closed the phone and threw it across the room. It didn't break. The screen lit up anyway. Another comment. Another sentence that matched my unspoken thought. I started sleeping with my phone in the bathroom, far away from the bed. I would leave my laptop in another room, unplugged. But even then, I could feel her presence, like a shadow hovering over my shoulder, timing herself perfectly. Sometimes I would catch glimpses in reflective surfaces, like the corner of a mirror or the screen of a dark TV. It was never clear, never fully visible, but enough to make my stomach churn. I can't post anything about her anymore. I can't think of her without fearing that she's already responding. I've started writing in notebooks longhand, but even then I feel like she's timing herself somehow, predicting, anticipating. I'm always behind, always reacting, always waiting for her to be one step ahead, and she always is. Last night, I tried opening a new draft, just typing random nonsense to see if she would comment. The second I typed the last word, her name popped up in a notification. I didn't even finish the sentence this time. Her comment showed up, completing what I had been thinking, not even what I had typed. I stared at it, unable to move, unable to breathe. My room felt smaller, darker, like the walls were pressing in. And I knew finally that this was a coincidence. This wasn't luck. This wasn't normal. She had a way of being inside my head, knowing every ending before it existed. It started one night when I woke up coughing, choking like I had swallowed a mouthful of water I didn't even know was there. My apartment was silent, the little space I live in for $620 a month smelling faintly of leftover coffee and laundry detergent. I was drenched in sweat, heart hammering so hard I thought it would punch through my chest. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, screen lighting up the dark. Her name. I froze before picking it up. The message read, "You're dreaming about water again." I didn't reply. I just stared at the screen, blinking in disbelief. I had no idea what it meant. I hadn't texted her in weeks. I hadn't even thought about her consciously today. And yet she knew exactly what I was dreaming about, exactly what I had just experienced in my sleep. I sat on the edge of my bed, chest still tight, trying to convince myself it was some insane coincidence. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. The first time it happened, I thought it was a fluke. I had been having weird dreams for a while, water everywhere, rivers, floods, sometimes just standing in a puddle that grew too fast. I woke up before I could even understand what was happening, and then her message appeared. I deleted it, tried to forget it, tried to convince myself that I had imagined it, but the dreams came back, and so did the messages. Every time, it was the same pattern. I'd start dreaming about water. Sometimes it was raining too hard, sometimes it was a flood, sometimes just a weird calm pond I couldn't get out of. I'd wake up choking or gasping, body drenched in sweat, and there would be a message from her, always pointing out exactly what I had been dreaming. The timing was perfect, instantaneous, like she had been watching the dream itself and texting me from inside it. I started sleeping in strange positions on the couch with extra pillows, anything to try to stop the dreams. It didn't matter. The water came anyway, and every time her message came too. I stopped leaving my phone in the bedroom. I moved it to the kitchen, far away from the bed, but it didn't help. The vibration would catch me just as I was waking up, heart racing, chest tight, water dripping from imagined floods, still heavy in my lungs. I tried asking friends about it once cautiously. I described the dreams, the messages, and the way it felt like she was inside my head. They laughed, said maybe I was stressed, maybe too much caffeine, maybe coincidence. I didn't argue. I just nodded and smiled. But the truth was, I wasn't making it up. I knew what I was seeing. I knew she knew. And the fact that nobody else could see it made it worse. I was alone in this. I stopped sleeping at all when I could. I would stay up for days, trying to dodge the dreams. But exhaustion caught me eventually, and when I fell asleep, water would be there. Sometimes it was calm, almost beautiful, a lake stretching farther than I could see. Sometimes it was violent, rushing over me, pushing me down, clawing at my chest. And her message was always there, waiting for me the moment I woke up, confirming everything I had just experienced. It didn't matter if I tried to block her. I tried once, furious, desperate to cut off this invisible connection. That night, I woke up in the middle of a flood in my dream, choking, feeling water in my lungs I couldn't expel. No message appeared because she was blocked, but the intensity was doubled. My body shook uncontrollably, gasping for air. I unlocked her the next morning, hands trembling, chest aching. It was like she was necessary to manage the dream, or at least to make it bearable. I stopped leaving the city. I stopped staying anywhere unfamiliar. I live in the same $620 studio, walked the same streets, ate the same cheap takeout. But even routine didn't help. The dreams found me. The water always came. And when I woke up, her message was there, eyes staring at me through the screen, explaining what I had just lived through before I even had the chance to recover. I started keeping a journal of the dreams, writing down every detail, every wave, every drop of rain I imagined. I would go back and read them later, looking for patterns, trying to predict what she would text next. Sometimes it matched exactly, down to a phrase I had written only in my head. Sometimes it was more detailed, something I hadn't even noticed in the dream. She knew it all. She always knew. I stopped eating before bed, stopped drinking, stopped moving too much in the evenings. My apartment became a small, controlled environment, every variable accounted for. But it didn't matter. Water always came. And her message always followed, waiting patiently for me to wake up, for me to choke, for me to feel the weight of being watched so intimately that it became impossible to escape. Friends stopped coming over. I didn't tell them why. It would sound insane. I couldn't explain the suffocating feeling of someone knowing your dreams, your exact fears, predicting the moment your body would react before your mind even processed it. I became isolated, sleeping in short bursts, always with the phone close, always half expecting her message. I've tried everything to regain control. Sleep apps, meditation, moving furniture, sleeping on the floor, even taking cold showers before bed. Nothing worked. The dreams came anyway. The water came anyway. And her message came anyway, reading my subconscious like a book she had memorized, reciting the line I was trapped in before I even knew I was trapped. Last night, it happened again. I fell asleep on the couch, trying to watch a movie to distract myself. I woke up choking, gasping for air, arms flailing in my blankets. The flood was there, cold and fast, dragging me down. My phone buzzed on the table. She had texted, "You're dreaming about water again." I stared at it, lungs burning, hands shaking. There was no relief, no comfort, no pause, just the inevitability of being caught in her awareness, a spectator in my own nightmare. I can't block her. I can't escape her. I can't even close my eyes without the flood coming, without her text waiting, knowing, confirming, always one step ahead of my body, my mind, and my dreams. And tonight, I know it will happen again. I will fall asleep, I will drown, and her message will arrive exactly when it should, reading my nightmare like it's a story she wrote, or maybe one she orchestrated. I never thought I'd be the kind of person who freezes in front of their mailbox, but here I am, standing on the cracked sidewalk outside my apartment that costs $710 a month, staring down a small cardboard box that isn't supposed to exist. It was addressed to me in her handwriting, looping and deliberate, the kind of handwriting you remember from high school but never want to see again. I hesitated, hand hovering over the tape. I didn't want to open it, but the curiosity won. Inside were things I had lost years ago. Baby teeth I had buried under my bed as a kid, a clump of hair I had shed without thinking, old nail clippings from when I used to bite them in high school. I recognized every single piece. The smell, the texture, the way they felt in my hand. How she even got them, I have no idea. I never gave her any of it. I never mentioned them. And yet here it was, in a box, waiting for me like a gift. The creepiness of it didn't hit me immediately. At first, it was just shocking. Then, as I dug further into the box, it hit me. There was one thing in there I knew I had never lost, never even owned. A small, delicate pendant I wore for a week last year, the one my grandmother gave me. It was silver with a tiny stone in the center. I left it on my dresser one night after taking it off, thinking it was safe. I had looked everywhere for it for months and given up. And now it was in her box. My stomach twisted, my hands shaking. This wasn't just about old things she had found. This was about her knowing my life in a way that no one else did. She could see everything I thought was private, gone, or forgotten. I called my apartment complex office first, thinking maybe someone was playing a prank. But no, the package came through the mail, paid for with a name I didn't recognize, postmarked from a city miles away. She couldn't have been anywhere near me. That realization made it worse. This wasn't local. This wasn't a joke. This was calculated, deliberate, and meant to reach me. I started getting packages more frequently after that first one. Envelopes with locks of hair I didn't remember cutting, tiny wrapped bundles with tooth fragments, nail clippings. All labeled with dates and notes like she had been keeping track. I tried burning the things, throwing them away, leaving them on the street. They came back. Every time like she was feeding off my fear, enjoying the moment my stomach dropped when I saw the return address, the handwriting, the unmistakable sense that she had invaded my privacy deeper than anyone should. I couldn't sleep in my apartment anymore. Every creak of the walls, every knock on the door made me jump. I thought about changing my address, moving somewhere new, somewhere she couldn't follow. But how? How could I be sure she wasn't already inside my life in ways I didn't even know? What else could she have taken? What else could she be keeping track of? The thought of mailmen, neighbors, anyone even remotely connected suddenly became terrifying. I didn't trust anyone. One day I found a package not addressed to me. It was sitting on my doorstep, just a plain brown box, no name, nothing. I hesitated but opened it. Inside was a photograph of my apartment from the inside, taken while I slept. The camera angle was perfect, capturing my bed, the nightstand, my phone. I hadn't posted pictures of my apartment online. Nobody else had seen it. She knew every corner. She knew my routines, my movements, and she could send me reminders of that knowledge whenever she wanted. That was when it hit me fully. She wasn't just sending me objects. She was sending me proof. Proof that she had access to parts of my life I thought were mine alone. I started keeping track of every little thing I lost, afraid of what might show up next. I drew diagrams of my apartment, listing everything I still had, everything she might have a copy of or track. I stopped wearing certain clothes, stopped using certain hair products, stopped even thinking about leaving anything lying around. It became obsessive. Every hairbrush, every nail clippings jar, every small personal object had to be locked away or destroyed. But even then, the packages kept coming. The strangest part is the timing. She always knew exactly when I was vulnerable. I'd have a rough day, lose my patience with work, or just feel lonely, and the mail would arrive the next morning. Her packages weren't random. They were calculated, showing up at the exact moment when I felt weak, when I felt exposed. It wasn't just about the objects themselves. It was about control, about knowing she could reach into my life at any moment, no matter what I did. I stopped answering the door. I started instructing the mailman to leave packages with the office and never ring my bell. But some always slipped through. A friend tried to help once, volunteering to pick up packages for me. I came home that evening to see her handwriting on an envelope he claimed he hadn't touched. Somehow she had reached it. Somehow she knew. My paranoia became total. I was constantly aware of every object in my home, every possible way she could get to me. I locked everything in drawers, cabinets, safes, even behind doors. Nothing was safe. Then came the last package, the one I can't explain at all. It arrived without warning, no note, no return address, nothing to suggest where it came from. Inside was a small, perfectly intact piece of jewelry I had never owned, never seen, never even thought about. It was delicate, strange, with engravings I didn't recognize. I don't know how she got it, or even why. I stared at it for hours, turning it over in my hands, the edges sharp against my skin. And I realized she didn't need my past anymore. She was moving on to the impossible. Things I didn't even know existed, things that weren't mine, things she had no reason to have, but she did. She could reach into the unknown, into the parts of life I didn't understand yet, and make them hers. I stopped sleeping. I stopped eating normally. Every sound, every knock, every flutter of wind outside felt like her. The packages had taken over my life. They weren't just mail. They were messages, warnings, proof, and control all wrapped together. I couldn't move without thinking, couldn't relax, couldn't trust reality. I was trapped in a world where she could reach in, where lost things weren't really lost, and where ownership didn't exist. Everything belonged to her in some twisted way. Last week, I found a package at my feet without even leaving the apartment. It was small, light, and familiar. I opened it, expecting something I had lost. Instead, it was a tiny key, no label, no note, no indication of what it unlocked. I don't know where it came from. I don't know what it's for, but I know it's hers. I know it means something. I just don't know what, and that's worse than knowing. That's worse than the baby teeth or the hair or the nail clippings. That's the part I can't understand or control, the part of her reach that goes beyond what I thought was possible. I remember the moment I realized something was off, something terrifying, and it wasn't even after he left. It hit me a week after the breakup when I was scrolling through old photos of us, smiling, laughing, the kind of pictures you think you'll look back on fondly. That's when I noticed it. He never blinked in any of them. Not once. At first, I thought it was coincidence, just bad timing with the camera shutter. But the more photos I looked at, the more I noticed it. Not a single blink. Not during the night we watched movies, not on the beach. Not even when he was eating or talking or pretending to yawn. His eyes were always wide open, dry, unyielding. After I noticed it, I started remembering every moment differently. Every time we kissed, every time we hugged, every time he watched me, I realized I had never seen him blink. It made my skin crawl. I told myself it was just a weird trait, a habit maybe. Something odd, yes, but not threatening. That was a mistake. The first time I saw him outside my window, I was in the kitchen making cereal. It was late, past midnight, and I had the lights off because I was trying not to wake my roommate. That's when I saw him. Standing there, on the sidewalk, directly below my apartment window. He was staring up at me, eyes dry and possibly wide open, reflecting the streetlight like glass. I froze. My heart stopped, my breath caught. For a moment, I couldn't even think. The world went quiet. I grabbed the phone on the counter and called my roommate, but no one answered. I didn't dare move closer to the window. He just stood there, motionless. Blinking didn't happen. The realization hit me again with full force. He had never blinked, and now he was right outside my window, staring at me like I was something to observe, something to trap. I wanted to scream, to throw something at him, to run, but my body didn't respond. Over the next few nights, it became a pattern. I would wake up, hear the faintest creak of the street below, and there he was. Always outside my window, always staring. I started sleeping in the middle of my apartment, away from any windows, covering mirrors, drawing blinds tighter than I thought possible. But no matter what I did, I felt him. The sensation of his eyes on me never left. Even during the day, walking down the street, sitting in a coffee shop, I felt the weight of his gaze, unblinking, relentless. I stopped taking night classes, stopped going out late, stopped looking at social media. My apartment, which cost $730 a month, became a cage. I installed cameras, motion sensors, locks, even tried pepper spray on the windowsills. Nothing worked. He never approached directly, never made a sound. He just watched, and I knew he could do it from wherever he wanted. Somehow, he had the patience and control to remain there, night after night, outside my window, eyes wide open, never blinking, never leaving. I tried to tell my friends, to laugh it off, to explain it as a coincidence. They didn't understand. They laughed nervously, told me to get some sleep, that I was overthinking. But they didn't see him. They didn't feel it. They couldn't know what it was like to wake up and see someone just standing there, unblinking, dry-eyed, calm, and unstoppable. The paranoia became unbearable. I started covering every reflective surface, every glass, every screen. Even my phone became dangerous because he could be there in the reflection without me realizing it. One night, I woke up to scratching on the window. Soft, deliberate, almost patient. I didn't move. My eyes adjusted just enough to see him, inches from the glass. He had climbed the fire escape, somehow silently. His eyes didn't change. The dry, wide stare didn't falter. I couldn't scream. I couldn't move. I just stared back, heart hammering, trying to memorize the shape of his face, trying to remember that this was human, that this was something I could fight. But it wasn't. It was something else. Something calm, patient, and terrifying. I called the police once, explained the situation, tried to keep my voice steady. They came, circled the building, checked the street, and found nothing. No footprints, no signs of him at all. They suggested maybe it was a stalker who left before they arrived, but I knew better. He wasn't human in the way I thought people were. People blink. People leave. People get tired. He didn't. And the absence of blinking had been my first warning, the subtle thing I ignored until it was too late. I stopped sleeping in my bedroom entirely. I set up a mattress in the living room, facing away from the windows. I covered every reflective surface. I bought blackout curtains, installed locks on every window, and still every night I felt him. Sometimes I would see a shadow, sometimes a shape, sometimes just the unmistakable feeling of being watched. And I would realize with a sick, sinking feeling that somewhere outside, he was staring, unblinking, waiting, patient, and eternal. I haven't left the apartment after dark in weeks. I make excuses for my friends, for work, for anything that requires me to go outside at night. The street light in front of the building flickers sometimes, and I panic, thinking he's climbing, thinking he's moving, thinking he's closer than ever. I check the window constantly, even covered, just in case he appears without warning. I don't know how he does it, how he survives outside without blinking, without sleep, without the natural limits of a human body. And the uncertainty terrifies me more than the certainty of his presence. Last night, I heard the scratching again, louder this time. I didn't dare look. I grabbed my phone and called the only friend who might believe me. He answered groggily, said I sounded crazy, said I should sleep. I hung up. I didn't sleep. I stayed awake all night, staring at the blacked-out window, imagining him there, imagining the eyes that never close, imagining the patience and control it would take to be that close, that constant, that unstoppable. I've accepted now that I can't ignore it. I can't escape it. I can't convince anyone to believe me. He's out there, and he's always watching. The blinking, the simplest human act, was the first sign I missed. Now, every night, I sit in the middle of the living room, lights off, hoping that if I don't move, he won't notice me. But I know he does. I feel it in the air, in the silence, in the stillness of my apartment. His eyes never blink. They never tire. And I know that tonight, and every night after, they will be there outside my window, staring, unblinking, waiting. I thought deleting her number would be the end of it. I thought cutting her out of my life completely, erasing her from my phone, my contacts, my world would make everything stop. I was wrong. I wish I could say I saw the first sign coming, that there was a warning, but it hit me like a punch to the stomach one Sunday morning when I woke up and my phone buzzed. The text preview showed my own name. My phone lit up with a notification from me, my own number, my own profile picture. I opened it slowly, trying to rationalize. Maybe it was some weird glitch, maybe a spam message, maybe my phone had finally started acting up from being 3 years old. But as I read the message, my stomach dropped. She knew exactly what I had deleted. She knew exactly when I tried to cut her off. And somehow, she was sending me messages under my own name. It started small. A simple good morning text with a little emoji. At first, I thought it was just a coincidence. Maybe a friend playing a joke. But then the messages became specific, things only she could know. She commented on what I had for breakfast, the clothes I wore, the way I left my bedroom door open last night. Everything private, everything personal. I couldn't explain it. I checked my phone's security, my apps, my accounts. Nothing. No signs of a hack, no breach, nothing. And yet there she was pretending to be me, watching me, and messaging me in real time. The next day, the messages escalated. She started sending me things I hadn't told anyone, things I thought were safe, things I would never share. Little confessions, moments I had written in a journal I didn't even think she had access to. The way she phrased the text made it worse. It was her voice, not mine. The messages came from my number, my contact name, my profile picture, but the tone, the rhythm, the personality, hers. She had slipped inside my identity, in the one place I thought I was untouchable. I tried blocking the number, thinking maybe that would work. Maybe if I blocked myself, I could stop it. But the next message came through just the same, from my number, from my contact name. She didn't care about the blocks, the settings, the phones, the SIAM cards. Nothing. She was everywhere I tried to be. I couldn't escape. Then came the real escalation. One night, I woke up to my phone buzzing at 3:02. I rolled over, heart pounding, and saw a string of texts that described exactly what I was dreaming. Not vaguely, not as a guess, but in precise detail. She knew I was asleep. She knew the images in my head. She knew the fear and the panic. I tried to throw the phone across the room, but it kept buzzing. She was relentless. She was in my phone, my messages, my mind, and I had no idea how. I started sleeping with my phone in the bathroom, turned off, unplugged, hoping for even a few hours of peace. That didn't work. Somehow the messages arrived even when the phone was off. I don't know how, then I stopped trying to rationalize it because reasoning didn't stop her. She didn't need technology in the way I understood it. She was always inside, always aware, always waiting. I stopped responding. I stopped opening the messages. I stopped looking at my phone entirely, but the notifications didn't stop. I started getting pictures, videos even, of myself. Nothing explicit, nothing criminal, but everything personal. Pictures of me making coffee, brushing my teeth, walking down the street. Things I didn't notice anyone else seeing. Things she was watching. Things she sent under my own name. I didn't know whether to be terrified of her, of my own phone, or of myself. I tried changing numbers, even getting a new phone. I deleted accounts, created new emails, wiped everything. But she was persistent. The text came again. New number, my name, my profile picture, my messages. She was mimicking me perfectly, to the point where I couldn't even tell if a text was mine or hers. I started replying to myself without realizing, typing out messages only to realize she had sent the exact response minutes before. I couldn't tell reality from manipulation. My friends started noticing. I would suddenly disappear from group texts, respond at weird hours, and then my own messages would contradict what I remembered typing. They thought I was stressed, exhausted, maybe losing it. And I was. I was losing it. I stopped checking my phone for days, sometimes a week at a time. The messages piled up. Hundreds of unread texts, all from my own number, all from my own contact name, all from her, all reflecting the exact things I feared, the exact things I tried to hide, the exact ways I tried to escape. It got worse when she started sending instructions, small tasks, ridiculous requests, things that seemed harmless at first but became increasingly invasive. Watch this, say this, move there. She was trying to control not just my phone, but my actions, my life. And she didn't even need to be near me. She didn't need anything but the fact that I had tried to delete her, the fact that I had tried to take control. I stopped telling anyone about the text entirely. I couldn't. Nobody would believe that a person could send messages from my own phone, my own name, my own identity. I couldn't even prove it. The texts appeared when my phone was off, when it was reset, when I changed devices always under my own name, always for me, but never mine. I stopped sleeping in my own bed. I moved my phone to another room. I didn't eat when the texts came. I didn't answer calls. I didn't leave my apartment. The last 6 months have been a nightmare I can't explain. The worst part is the anticipation, the not knowing. Every time my phone buzzes, every time I see my own name light up on the screen, my body freezes. I can't even tell if it's her or a glitch, my imagination or reality. The control she has is total. She knows me better than anyone, better than myself. She can pretend to be me, act as me, manipulate me as me, and there's nothing I can do. I've lost every boundary, every barrier, every piece of privacy. My phone isn't mine. My identity isn't mine, and she doesn't need permission. Yesterday I tried deleting everything again. Phone, SIM, accounts, email. I was desperate, and this morning my own name sent me a single text. Just one. I opened it, heart hammering. It read, "Why did you leave me?" And I knew absolutely that it wasn't me. It was her, and it never had been. I'd never thought a hug could ruin someone. I thought it was just a normal thing. Friends hugging, family hugging, people being close. But then he left, and everything changed. The first time it happened, I didn't notice at first. My friend came over one Saturday, we were talking, joking, and I gave her a hug when she left. Nothing weird at the time, just a normal moment. But later that night, I got a text from her. She had fallen down the stairs at home and broken her wrist. My stomach dropped. I didn't even say anything at first. I told myself it was coincidence. It had to be. Then it happened again. My cousin came over for my birthday. I hugged him when he arrived. Nothing heavy, nothing awkward, just a greeting hug. 2 days later, I got a message from him. He had a car accident while driving home. Minor injuries, thank God, but still injuries. My heart was hammering. I tried to convince myself it was just luck. Crazy bad luck. But then the pattern became undeniable. Every person I hugged, every person I came close to, ended up hurt. My best friend, my roommate, my little brother, all of them got into accidents, scraped themselves, cut themselves, got sick suddenly. It was always after a hug, always after I had been close. I started keeping my distance, avoiding hugs, refusing handshakes, avoiding closeness altogether. People noticed. They asked if I was being dramatic. They didn't understand. Nobody understood. I started thinking about him. My ex, the one I had broken up with a year ago. He had always been possessive, controlling, but in subtle ways. I remember once, before we broke up, he had laughed at the idea of personal space, saying something about setting boundaries, but it had been weirdly intense. I hadn't realized then, but after all these injuries, it hit me. Maybe it wasn't a joke. Maybe he wasn't just controlling me emotionally. Maybe he had done something when we were together, something that attached to me, and now that I had left him, it was punishing everyone around me through me. I tried to test it. I hugged a pillow. Nothing happened. I hugged my dog. Nothing happened. I hugged a stranger in a public street. Well, technically, I didn't because I couldn't bring myself to do it, but the thought terrified me. It had to be about people I knew, people he could recognize, people he cared about, and that made sense. It made sense in the most horrifying way. He had found a way to reach through me, reach through closeness, reach through love and trust, and twist it into harm. It got worse over time. I stopped going out. I stopped socializing. I stopped even seeing my family because I couldn't risk touching them. It wasn't just hugs anymore. A pat on the shoulder, a casual touch. Even brushing past someone on the street sometimes led to small accidents, small injuries. I couldn't even hold the door open without feeling guilty. I tried to call him, to demand he stop, to tell him to fix whatever he had done, but he just laughed. In a text one night, he said, "I'm setting boundaries. Learn to live with it." And that was it. No apology, no explanation, just the words, cold and flat. I started keeping a log, obsessively, tracking every interaction, every hug, every handshake. The pattern never wavered. I stopped being able to touch anything without fear of consequences. I had nightmares about people getting hurt just by my presence. Friends and family started avoiding me anyway. They didn't know why, but they felt the tension. I could see it in their eyes when I tried to explain. Nobody could understand. I even tried therapy. I tried to talk to doctors about stress, anxiety, paranoia. They told me to take deep breaths, to journal, to maybe limit contact for a while. They didn't understand. None of them understood the pattern, the connection. And every time I left the office, someone in the waiting room would drop a magazine on their foot, trip over a bag, or spill coffee. It was always after a moment of proximity. I couldn't shake it. The paranoia consumed me. I stopped eating with friends. I stopped working at the cafe I liked. I stopped going to class. I barricaded myself in my apartment, wearing gloves sometimes, avoiding skin contact with anyone. My apartment started to feel like a prison, the walls closing in, the silence deafening. I didn't even know how long I could survive like this, but the fear was constant. The fear of a hug, a pat, a touch was unrelenting. I thought about confronting him, going to his apartment, talking to him, making him undo whatever he had done. But I couldn't. I knew it wouldn't work. He was in control of it all. He didn't need to touch anyone. He didn't need to speak to me directly. All he had to do was exist in the way he had before, the way he had left, and the damage followed. Every hug, every casual embrace, every friendly gesture became a weapon. The worst day was last month. My little brother had just returned from college. I saw him in the airport terminal and instinctively ran to hug him. It had been a year since we had seen each other. I couldn't stop myself. And that night, he called me from the hospital. A freak accident. Slipped in the shower. Broken ribs, sprained wrist, bruised everywhere. I sat on my bed, phone in my lap, shaking. I wanted to cry, scream, throw the phone, anything. I hated him, hated myself, hated him more. I couldn't even grieve properly because I knew it would make it worse. Now, I don't hug anyone. I don't touch anyone. I have distanced myself from everyone who matters to me. The isolation is unbearable, the loneliness crushing, but it's better than the alternative. I live in a constant state of fear, waiting for someone to come into my apartment, someone to get too close, someone to be touched by me and hurt. He's never coming back. He's never giving me permission to heal. He's never stopping. And I don't know if I'll ever be able to touch anything again without thinking about the consequences. Even typing this feels wrong. My fingers on the keyboard, brushing the keys. What if someone touches my writing? What if someone reads this and something happens? My life is a series of calculated avoidance measures, all because of him. He's the one setting boundaries. I'm just the conduit, the thing he left behind to watch and control and manipulate through every gesture, every human contact. I don't know how long I can keep living like this. I'm starting to forget what it feels like to be normal, to be safe, to be able to hug someone without fearing for their life. My apartment is quiet, too quiet. My phone's silent, my friends distant, my family scared of me. The one thing I wanted, normal human connection, has become impossible. And I have him to thank. The one person who promised love and gave me this instead. I'd never thought breaking up could feel like getting trapped in a nightmare that rewinds itself. The first time it happened, I thought I was losing my mind. I had been seeing her for almost a year, and things were spiraling. Too many arguments, too many fights that ended with silence and doors slammed. I decided it was over and told her that morning. It was late, the city still half asleep, the sky that strange gray before the sun fully shows up. She looked at me with this expression that made my stomach turn, like she knew exactly what I was about to do, and then she left. The rest of the day went normal enough at first. I went home, tried to distract myself, watched videos, scrolled through my phone. But around noon, something felt off. My phone buzzed. It was a message from her. Confused, I opened it. It wasn't angry, not yet. Just a question about what I was doing. Weird, I thought. I never told her my plans for the day. Then the strangest thing happened. I went to sleep that night, exhausted, thinking I could finally start moving on. I woke up and everything was the same morning again. Same sunlight through the blinds, same smell of coffee from the street below, same traffic noise outside my window. My phone buzzed. Same message from her. I froze. My stomach knotted. At first I thought it was deja vu, some coincidence. But when I checked my clock, it read exactly 7:04 a.m., the moment I had broken up with her. My heart sank. The entire day had restarted, like a tape rewinding itself and playing again. I tried to act differently the second time. I didn't break up with her right away. I tried to avoid the confrontation, to ignore the tension, but the moment I even thought about ending things, it snapped. The day reset. I would wake up same exact moment, same exact sunlight, same exact coffee smell, same message from her. And now there was a difference. She seemed angrier this time. I could feel it in her words, though she wasn't even there yet. It was like the day itself carried her emotion forward, waiting for me to make the same choice. By the third loop, it was terrifying. I started keeping track of what I did, noting every little detail, trying to see if I could break the cycle by changing things. I went to different streets, ate different meals, even stayed home all day, hoping that ignoring her, pretending I hadn't decided to leave, might make the world continue. It didn't. Every single attempt to avoid her only ended with the day snapping back to that same morning, me facing the same decision, and her getting angrier with each repetition. I began to notice small things that weren't the same as the first loop. Shadows that lingered longer, the reflection in the window moving before I did, the sunlight falling at odd angles. And every time I woke up to the reset, there was a subtle change in her messages. Not just the words, but the feeling behind them. It was more intense, more desperate, almost violent. I started to fear what would happen if I kept breaking up with her over and over. By the fifth loop, it wasn't just a mental strain, it was physical. My body ached like I had run a marathon, even though I hadn't moved. My eyes felt dry, my skin crawling, my hands shaking whenever I touched my phone. Every time I considered ending things, I could feel her anger, a tangible pressure building around me, like the air itself was turning hostile. I didn't even need to see her face. I could feel her in the room, watching me waiting. I started avoiding my own apartment in hopes of escaping the loops. I tried spending nights at friends' places, hiding, staying busy. It didn't matter. Every time I drifted off, I woke up again at 7:04 a.m., everything exactly the same, the world looping, the same sun, the same message. And her anger intensified with every repetition. By now, it wasn't subtle. It was a physical force that seemed to press down on me, clawing at my chest, making it hard to breathe. I even tried reaching out to her, hoping that talking things through could break the loop. But every time I typed a message, it would delete itself. And then her response would arrive before I even finished typing. I couldn't escape her influence, couldn't act without her preempting me. Every word I typed, every thought I had, she was there, waiting, controlling the narrative, turning the day into her playground. The loops got longer, not in minutes, but in the way my brain stretched across the repeated day. I started noticing patterns. Birds landing in the same spots, cars honking in the exact same rhythm, the exact same people walking past my window at the same time. It was like a horrifying clock, winding over and over, each second stuck in a loop, each movement predetermined, all feeding her rage. I tried to sleep at random times to disrupt the pattern. I tried unplugging my phone, throwing it out the window, leaving town. Nothing worked. The moment I blinked, the world snapped back to that morning, to the split second when I made the choice to leave. And she was angrier now. The messages weren't just text anymore. They were screaming but quiet, like the kind of scream that crawls under your skin. I could feel it vibrating in my skull. The worst loop was yesterday, or maybe today. I can't tell anymore. I woke up and everything was darker, the sunlight harsher, the streets outside quieter. Her message arrived immediately, but now the words were distorted. The tone, the pressure behind them, it hit me like a fist in the chest. I didn't even want to open my mouth, didn't want to think about breaking up, but the day forced me to face it. I had no choice. And the anger, the pure, unfiltered rage radiating from her presence, felt like it could crush me if I moved the wrong way. I've stopped trying to sleep through it now. I stay awake, pacing, counting, trying to find a crack in the cycle. I've started drawing maps of my apartment, labeling every window, every door, every chair, as if that could give me control over the day. It doesn't. I know that the moment I make a single decision to leave, everything snaps, the world resets, and she gets even angrier. I can feel her building now. Each loop her anger feeds on itself, mutates, becomes something almost alive. I can feel it when I brush my teeth, when I pour coffee, when I open the fridge. It's there in the air, whispering, reminding me of the choice I have to make. And I don't want to make it. I can't. Because every time I do, I know the day will reset and she will be more furious than before. I haven't left my apartment in weeks. I haven't talked to anyone in months. The only thing I can do is wait, pacing, trying to survive the next 24 hours without making the decision that will start it all again. And the day is coming, I know it. That split second will arrive, The moment when my brain forces me to end things and I'll feel her presence explode around me, the fury of all the previous loops condensed into one unbearable weight. I don't know how many times this has happened. I don't know if it ever ends. All I know is that she is getting angrier, and the loops are closing in. Each reset is worse than the last, each day more distorted, each moment more suffocating. I can't tell where she ends and the world begins, and I'm terrified, because no matter what I do, no matter how much I run or hide or wait, the day will come again, and she will be there, angrier, ready, and waiting for me to make the choice that traps me all over again. I thought the first move to get rid of him would feel freeing. I spent hours in my tiny apartment ripping up photos, tossing clothes, shredding letters, even throwing away books he left behind. I went through every corner, every drawer, every closet. I didn't just want to get rid of the memories. I wanted to erase him completely to make sure that nothing could pull me back, even if my brain tried. My hands were raw by the end of the day, my eyes scratched from the paper cuts, but I felt this sick sense of accomplishment. The apartment was empty, clean, mine. That night, I slept exhausted but relieved. I woke up and immediately saw it. Everything I had thrown out was back on my bed. The shredded letters were neatly taped together, the clothes folded perfectly, and even the books stacked in the order they had been on the shelf. On top of it all, there was a note written in his handwriting, or at least something impossibly close to it, that read Hourus. My stomach dropped. I didn't even have to think about what it meant. Someone, or something, had put all of it back, and labeled it like it wasn't just mine, like I had no right to own it alone. I ran through my apartment, checked the doors, the windows, even under the bed. Nothing. No sign of anyone being there. The locks were intact, the doors were bolted. My heart was racing, but I told myself it was a nightmare, a weird trick of my mind. I had stayed up too late, been too tired, and my brain had put everything back in place while I slept. Except it wasn't a dream. I pinched myself, screamed internally, tried to rationalize it, but the note was still there, neat and clean, resting on top of the pile. Hours. The next day, I tried to burn some of it. I thought fire would finally destroy it. I started with the letters. One by one, I watched the flames consume the paper. The smell was terrible, sharp but satisfying. I felt like I was finally taking control. I went to sleep that night thinking I had done it. The fire had destroyed the evidence, and I could start over. Morning came, and my stomach dropped again. The ashes from the letters were swept neatly into a pile, each paper piece reconstructed like some impossible puzzle. My clothes were folded on the bed, the book stacked neatly, and the note was back. Hours. Even the smell of smoke had disappeared. It was like the fire had never happened, like the whole process of destruction had been reversed with precision. I didn't know how to react. Part of me wanted to run. Part of me wanted to hide in a closet until it all went away. I started keeping a camera. I thought maybe I had kept someone in the act. I set it up facing the bed, the pile, every inch of my apartment. I stayed up all night, staring at the screen, holding my phone like a weapon. At 3 in the morning, I saw it happen. The pile moved, not like someone picking it up, not like a gust of wind. It moved on its own, folding clothes, stacking books, arranging everything perfectly. My camera didn't record any figure, no shadow, nothing human, but it happened. My hands shook so bad I almost dropped the phone. From that night on, I didn't sleep well. Every time I closed my eyes, I imagined it happening again. I imagined the clothes folding themselves, the letters piecing back together, the note appearing on top. I started locking everything in boxes, chains around drawers, trying to contain it, but it didn't matter. I woke up to auroras on top of everything. Even when I bought new boxes, new locks, new drawers, the things would end up back on my bed, clean, arranged, labeled. I couldn't tell anyone. Friends would think I was losing my mind. I couldn't leave the apartment long enough to throw it all away, because when I returned, it was back like it never left. I tried therapy, even considered moving, but nothing seemed to matter. The moment I stepped away for too long, the things returned, waiting for me like some cruel joke. I started checking my apartment before bed, every night, only to find the pile arranged differently each morning. It wasn't random anymore, it was deliberate. It was taunting me. I tried taking it outside once. I put the whole pile in a large garbage bag, hauled it to the dumpster, and left it there overnight. I came back first thing in the morning. There it was back on my bed, unfolded, organized, and clean, with the note resting on top. Ours. I slammed my fist against the wall. I screamed. I cried. I didn't know what to do. Every method of destruction or removal was meaningless. It wasn't just about the things. It was about him, or whoever, or whatever had ownership over them now. It wasn't mine. It was ours, no matter how much I wanted to pretend otherwise. I stopped trying to fight it for a while. I started sleeping on the couch, keeping my bedroom off limits. But eventually, exhaustion caught up, and I fell asleep. I woke up to the note on the couch next to me, resting on top of the pile. I hadn't even touched the bedroom. My own apartment had been invaded in a way I couldn't control. Every corner was unsafe. Every surface became a canvas for this impossible, unrelenting presence. I started cataloging it. Not just the letters, not just the clothes, but everything that belonged to both of us, and eventually things that weren't even ours originally. Books I had bought after the breakup, notes I had written to myself. They all ended up on my bed, neat, arranged, labeled ours. Whoever was doing it didn't care about the timeline, didn't care what belonged to who. It was about possession, control, and the reminder that I could never reclaim ownership. I can't sleep anymore. I can't eat without checking my apartment first. I have boxes, locks, bags, but none of it works. Every morning, the pile appears differently. Sometimes the letters are at the bottom. Sometimes the clothes on top. Sometimes the books are open to the same page you always read. And the note changes slightly, almost like it's alive. Sometimes it's in his handwriting, sometimes in mine, sometimes in something I don't recognize, but still unmistakably claiming ownership. Ours. It's not just about memories anymore. I see him in it. I see his presence everywhere, in every arrangement, in every crease of the paper, in every fold of the shirt. I feel like I'm walking through a house I don't own. It's not mine anymore. And the note, always the note, reminds me every single morning. Ours. I can't touch it. I can't leave it alone. I can't fight it. And it keeps coming back. I've stopped trying to sleep. I've stopped trying to throw anything away. I've started just staring at it, watching it, trying to understand how it's possible. Sometimes I think I hear him breathing in a room, though I live alone. Sometimes I swear I feel him fold a shirt or stack a book, even though my eyes are closed. The apartment is no longer mine. It's a shrine, a museum, a reminder of him, and I am trapped in it. The last time I thought I could fix it, I tried burning the whole bed, the mattress, the sheets, everything. The flames were wild, scorching, filling the room with smoke and heat, and I felt some satisfaction, some tiny hope. I went to sleep in the living room exhausted, thinking it was finally over. I woke up to smoke-free air, the bed intact, perfectly made, the pile resting neatly on top. And the note in handwriting that seemed to shift when I blinked simply said ours. I've realized there's no escape. Every object, every memory, every trace of him or us comes back, arranged perfectly, labeled ours, as if to remind me who really owns the past. I can't get rid of it. I can't burn it. I can't move. I just exist here, awake, watching, waiting, with the bed as a constant reminder that nothing I do will ever be enough to reclaim what's mine. The apartment is his and mine together, trapped forever under the label ours. The first voicemail came in while my phone was face down on the desk, buzzing like it was nervous. I almost ignored it. I had just finished clearing out my room, pushing his stuff into bags, telling myself this was the last night I would let him live in my head rent-free. When I flipped the phone over, I noticed something that made my chest tighten. The voicemail was dated tomorrow. Not later today. Not a few minutes from now. Tomorrow's date. I figured it was a glitch. Phones mess up all the time. I played it, expecting silence or static. Instead, I heard his breathing. Not heavy, not rushed, just steady, like he was standing still somewhere. Then I heard sounds behind him. Cars. Wind. A train horn way off in the distance. Stuff I recognized because I heard it every night outside my apartment. It was my street, my tomorrow. I didn't listen long. I deleted it and told myself to calm down. I barely slept. The next morning, the exact sound from the voicemail happened outside my window at the exact same times. The train horn, the car backfiring, even the dog barking 2 buildings down. Every detail lined up. I stood there in my kitchen with cold coffee in my hand, realizing the voicemail hadn't been recorded yesterday. It had been recorded ahead of time. More started coming in after that, always dated tomorrow, sometimes a day after. Never from his number. Always no caller info. I stopped deleting them and started saving them, even though my hands shook every time I pressed play. Each one described something small that would happen near me. A glass breaking at work, a friend slipping on the sidewalk, a power outage in my block. Nothing huge at first, just enough to prove it wasn't random. I tried changing my number. Didn't matter. The voicemail still came. Same breathing, same background sounds, same calm pace. It felt like he was standing just out of frame of my life, watching it one day ahead, leaving breadcrumbs so I'd know he was still there. What made it worse was how personal they got. One voicemail mentioned my old scar and aching when the weather changed. It did the next morning. Another mentioned my mom calling me twice before I answered. She did. I stopped answering her calls after that. I didn't want to hear anything before it happened. I didn't want proof anymore. I started isolating. If I didn't see people, maybe nothing would happen to them. If I didn't go anywhere, maybe the future would get confused. I stayed in my apartment, curtains closed, lights off during the day, scrolling mindlessly until my eyes hurt. Still, the voicemails came. They adjusted. One mentioned my ceiling fan rattling. It did. One mentioned the neighbor's alarm going off for hours. It did. Then the warning started. One voicemail talked about my coworker falling off a ladder. I tried calling in sick that day, hoping maybe distance would help. He still fell. Broke his arm. Another mentioned my cousin getting cut while cooking. I texted her to be careful, not explaining why. She laughed it off. The next night she sent me a photo of her bandaged hand. I started feeling responsible, like by listening, I was letting it happen. Like by existing near people, I was putting them in danger. The voicemails never said it outright, but the timing felt intentional. Like he was showing me what he could see. Like he was letting me know he had access to a version of the world I couldn't reach. I tried not listening anymore. I let them pile up. My phone storage filled with tomorrow. But even without listening, things still happened. It was worse not knowing. At least when I listened, I could brace myself. Not listening felt like standing in the dark waiting for something to hit me. One night, I got a voicemail dated 3 days ahead. That had never happened before. I sat on my bed staring at the screen for almost an hour before pressing play. The breathing was closer this time. Louder. The background noise was different. No street sounds. No cars. Just the low hum of electricity. My apartment's hum. Then I heard something that made my stomach drop. The sound of my own footsteps. Not live. Slightly delayed, like an echo. I didn't sleep that night. I packed a bag and left before sunrise, crashing on a friend's couch across town. I didn't tell her why. I just said I needed space. The next voicemail came in while I was brushing my teeth there. Dated tomorrow. The background noise messed her place, her fridge, her pipes. That's when I realized it wasn't about location. It was about me. Wherever I went, tomorrow followed, and he was already there. The voicemail started including me more directly. Mentions of my hands shaking, my heart racing, my thoughts spiraling. Stuff nobody else could know unless they were inside my head or watching me constantly. The breathing in the messages got slower, calmer, like he was settling in. Like this wasn't a threat anymore. It was routine. I tried destroying my phone. I smashed it and bought a cheap replacement for $120. New number. Knew everything. The first voicemail came in before I even finished setting it up. Tomorrow's date. Same breathing. Same hum. I stopped answering calls. Stopped checking the time. Stopped making plans. If I didn't acknowledge tomorrow, maybe it would stop existing. That didn't work either. Things still happened. People still got hurt. Small stuff, but enough to haunt me. The last voicemail I listened to was dated 1 week ahead. I shouldn't have played it. I know that now. The background noise was quiet. Too quiet. No hum. No wind. Just breathing and the faint sound of fabric moving, like someone shifting their weight. The message described my bedroom exactly as it would be. Lights off. Me sitting on the edge of the bed. Phone in my hand. Heart racing. I was sitting on the edge of the bed while listening to it. I didn't hear anything about injuries that time. No warnings. No predictions. Just a description of me realizing something. The realization that tomorrow wasn't coming anymore. That it had already been used up. That he had stepped into it and closed the door behind him. I haven't listened to any voicemails since. They still come. All dated ahead. My phone fills up with days I haven't lived yet. I don't know what happens when they run out. I don't know what happens when there is no tomorrow left for him to stand in. All I know is that every night, when I try to sleep, I swear I can hear breathing that isn't mine, syncs perfectly with what my phone will record next.